applauded virtually every disastrous trade agreement, which has cost us millions of decent-paying jobs.
Well, thank goodness I don't have to declare a winner, but my guests do. I'm joined by Democratic political analyst Jesse Mermel and Republican political analyst Jeff Simone. He is the vice chair of the Mass Federation of Youngish Republicans. Welcome to both of you. All right, so who's winning in this qualified war? Jeff, you know, it's...
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
It's absurd to, I mean, these are arguments on policy. And I think, you know, Jesse would agree with me on this. I mean, I'll even say that Hillary Clinton is qualified to be president of the United States. She's former Secretary of State, senator. I mean, the argument that she's not, doesn't have the resume to do it is completely fallacious. Policy, I'm happy to get into.
You know, Jesse, one of the things, I'm older than you, but one of the things I hear when someone like a Bernie Sanders says that someone like a Hillary Clinton isn't qualified, every man that got promoted before me, that got paid more than I did when I was as qualified as they were. Do you think this is a moment for Hillary to capture some of those young female voters that have been eluding her?
I don't know if it'll do that, but, you know, I have the exact same reaction to you as, you've got to be kidding me. This feels way too familiar. You know, I have seen this happen, not in a presidential race, in my own life and in my friends' lives. I don't think it's an age thing. I think any woman who's had a nanosecond worth of experience in the working world has experienced this, knows what it feels like, and doesn't like it. I don't think it bodes well for Bernie Sanders. Also, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket because Jeff just agreed with me on that.
I know, that's it's a big day. You know, the other part of it too, which just cracked me up, is that we're following a president who had very little experience as an elected governor. I mean, as a state senator, and then as a U.S. senator, and then president. It's not like Barack Obama or George Bush, for that matter, had tons and tons of experience.
Well, look, experience matters in some respects. If you have an experience in governing or in a legislature and an executive, it does add a lot of credence to your resume. But what makes a president or any executive successful or not is the policies they implement. So hopefully, you know, this on the Democratic side of the aisle, they can turn to a policy discussion. I understand there's actually debates coming up before the New York primary, which is a good thing, where they can actually hash this out. From my side, on the Republican side, I don't believe there's going to be any more debates for the remainder of the primary, mostly because Donald Trump doesn't want to have them, to his detriment, by the way.
Let's go back to the Democrats for just a second. I mean, they're also talking about how dirty the Democratic side is getting. It's only compared to how polite they've been to each other.
This is a T-social compared to our primary.
Yeah,
right, to the Republican primary.
No body parts have been brought into this conversation up until this point, which I feel like is a win for our side.
Win America.
Yeah, this has definitely been a rougher 24 hours than the rest of the Democratic side, but it pales in comparison to what our friends on the Republican side are doing.
Jeff, Bernie Sanders is still drawing huge crowds. It looks like he's going to go to the end.
Well, there's no reason why he shouldn't.
Yeah.
He raised $44 million last month. He outraised Hillary Clinton by $15 million. That is an enormous amount. He's won 7 out of the last states. Hillary Clinton better put him away in New York, or it's going to, or those conversations we were having 6 weeks ago are going to start to reemerge.
You know, speaking of New York, the interview that Bernie Sanders gave without being able to give a plan as to how the banks would be kept in check, I could only imagine that if Hillary Clinton had answered that way, she would be disemboweled.
Oh, and I think that is the kindest thing that might happen if she answered that way. Bernie Sanders got caught with his pants down. These are issues that he has been talking about, not just for the past year of his campaign, but truly for his whole career. And he was exposed for really being, you know, a mile wide and an inch deep. And for someone who's running to be the leader of the free world, it was a little bit alarming.
But the Wall Street speeches haven't been released yet, though, from Hillary Clinton. We still don't know what is in that content that she addressed these major donors and the quote-unquote bad guys of America right now.
Yeah, but that's really different from campaigning on the fact that you want to break up the banks and then saying, oh, I actually don't know how I would do that. I actually don't know if I have the authority to do that. And by the way, I think these people should have been charged as criminals. I don't actually know what laws they violated and what they might be charged with. Those are really different things.
What happens at the Democratic convention? convention? What do you see happening?
I think until super delegates start to get nervous and flip from Clinton to Sanders, you're looking at a nominee of Hillary Clinton, barring outside forces, that I've said here on the tape many times about possible indictment, which I don't think will actually happen. But look, she's got this wrapped up, but she almost can't help herself put Bernie Sanders away.
Well,
and there's a problem there because he's not going to go away.
Well, that's what my next question was.
Until you put him away.
We all love good primaries because it makes the candidates better and it gets issues out there. But is she going to be too damaged if she gets into the general election, regardless of who her opponent is?
It depends on what the tone of the campaign is. If the tone is like it is right now, that could be a problem. If Bernie Sanders is talking about his message, talking about Donald Trump, not really talking too much about Hillary Clinton, I think that's totally fine. If he's acting like he's running against Hillary, I think the Democratic Party might have an issue with that.
Well, in the Republican campaign, and we're going to call it a campaign because it's a bit more like a plate-throwing brawl dinner, Donald Trump went to Long Island, where 10,000 people jammed an arena and thousands more shouted at each other out on the streets. Trump entertained the crowd with lines like this.
He is lying, Ted. I came up with the idea, but you have to spell it right. It's Lyin apostrophe, Lion Ted. The Bible held high. He puts it down and then he lies.
Well, hey, points for grammar.
Yeah, no, he's great at spelling.
Where's Ted Cruz been?
Ted Cruz has been winning races, is where he's been.
But he's kind of been absent from the mix, though. Why?
Well, didn't he have that awkward trip to the Bronx?
Ted Cruz has been winning Wisconsin. Look, Ted Cruz has a phenomenal ground game. I've been privy to some of his data and tech insights. I think he is doing all the things Donald Trump is not doing, and he's winning races. He's winning majorities in races, and New York is coming up now. New York, the big number in New York is 50% plus one, a majority. If Donald Trump wins a majority, he can take all the delegates. If Kasich or Cruz block and tackle enough to keep him under a majority, it then gets to more of a proportionality type of situation.
Not winning New York, though, would be astonishing.
Astounding. Yeah.
And I don't know if that'll happen. He may win New York, but it really comes down to a question of how many delegates he gets out of it.
Jesse, I keep thinking of Cruz as the guy that you have asked you to the prom until the other guy is available. Like he's kind of like the stand-in prom date, and then you ditch him at the last minute. Is he going to get ditched at the Republican convention for someone better?
Now you're making me think of my not-so-stellar prom date back in the day. But I think if the Republicans have their druthers, they would find a way to do that. It is no secret that Ted Cruz is not exactly popular amongst the movers and shakers in the Republican Party. The question is, given the very strict rules of the Republican nominating process at the convention, which I'm sure Jeff knows better than I do, and the dearth of consensus candidates, I'm not sure who that alternate person would be, much as they'd like to see someone emerge.
Jeff, when you see these Trump rallies, what do you see happening if Trump doesn't get the nomination and he has a good number of delegates? Where are these people going to go?
Well, it almost doesn't matter where they go. I mean, their support for Donald Trump is unwavering. That baked in of 35%, give or take, on depending on what location you're in. They're hardcore, and they're not going away. There's been encouragement from some of Trump's cronies like Roger Stone to say go after delegates at the convention, some real nasty stuff. I'm hoping it doesn't come to that, but there's nothing unfair about the primary. These are the rules, and Donald Trump's fans.
One thing I've learned is the convention is the boss. So thanks to you two for coming in. We'll see you again very soon. I have no doubt. All righty.